All right, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of academic research. We're going to break down the actual blueprints that scholars use to ask smart questions and, more importantly, find credible answers about how the world really works.
You know, it all starts with something incredibly simple, something we all do: curiosity. That little voice in your head that just asks, why? That's it. That's the seed. That's where all research begins.
Okay, let me paint a picture for you. You're stuck in a crazy traffic jam, not moving an inch. What happens? Your brain just kicks into gear, right? First, you observe. Okay, we're at a total standstill. Then you form a hypothesis, a guess. I bet there's an accident up ahead. And then what do? You look for evidence. And sure enough, you see the flashing lights. You just did research right there in your car.
So what's the difference between that and a formal academic study? Well, it's not the process. It's about leveling up. It's about adding rigor, creating a clear system, and being totally transparent so anyone can see exactly how you got your answer. It's like showing your work in math class.
Now, to go from just a hunch to actual solid evidence, all credible research has to play by two fundamental rules. You can think of them as the two pillars that hold up any study you can trust: validity and reliability.
So first up is validity. And this really boils down to one absolutely critical question. Are we measuring what we think we're measuring? It's all about accuracy. If you're using a ruler to measure weight, it doesn't matter how careful you are, your results aren't valid. You're using the wrong tool for the job.
And a huge part of this is something called internal validity. This is about being really sure that the one thing we changed is what actually caused the result we saw, and not some other sneaky hidden factor that we didn't account for. For example, let's say a researcher tries a new teaching method, and wow, the students' test scores shoot up. Great! But hang on, can we be positive it was the new method? I mean, what if half the students started getting private tutoring? Or maybe the final test was just way easier than the first one? If we can't rule those things out, our study's conclusion is shaky.
Okay, the second rule of the game is reliability, and this one is all about consistency. Think about a bathroom scale. If you step on it and it says 150 pounds, then you step on it again a minute later and it says 180, that scale is not reliable. You can't trust it. Well, a research tool has to be reliable too. It needs to give you the same stable result time and time again.
So, keeping those two rules, validity and reliability, in mind, the researcher has a big choice to make. They need to pick a research design. This is the master plan. It's the architectural blueprint for the entire study.
And this decision puts you at a major fork in the road. You're choosing between two profoundly different ways of looking at the world and finding answers.
So, is your study going to follow the path of numbers or the path of stories? That's really the core difference here. On one side, you have quantitative research, which is all about numerical data, testing a specific hypothesis and getting a broad look at a large group. On the other side, you've got qualitative research, which goes deep using words and images to understand context and meaning. Let's walk down that first path for a minute, the quantitative one. This is where we use numbers, data, and statistical analysis to test our theories and see if what we found can apply to an even bigger group of people. Now, the undisputed gold standard for figuring out cause and effect is the experimental design. If you want to prove that A causes B, this is your tool. And the secret sauce? It's called random assignment. By sorting people into groups by pure chance, you make sure the groups are pretty much identical. That way, you can isolate the one thing you're actually testing. So, let's see this in action. Imagine researchers randomly put students into two different groups to learn grammar. Group A gets the old-school explicit rules. Group B learns more naturally, just by being exposed to the language. Afterwards, they both take the same test. By comparing the scores, the researchers can see which method actually caused the better results.
Of course, another huge tool in the quantitative world is survey research. This isn't about cause and effect. It's about getting a snapshot. The goal here is breadth. You want to describe what a whole population thinks or does by studying a small representative piece of it.
And this example shows that perfectly. Instead of going deep with one or two teachers, researchers can use a questionnaire to get data from hundreds of teachers all across an entire country. That's how you spot those big nationwide trends and paint the bigger picture.
Okay, let's switch gears and head down that other path. Qualitative research. This is where we build a completely different kind of understanding. We're looking for deep, rich insights. We want the stories, the context, the meaning behind it all.
A classic qualitative design is the case study. The best way to think of this is using a magnifying glass. You zoom way in to get a super detailed picture of a single case, one person, one organization, or one classroom, to really understand all of its moving parts.
And this is the magic of zooming in. Instead of that survey of 400 teachers, here a researcher focuses on just one. They sit in her classes, they interview her, they analyze her students' work. They uncover the subtle human stuff that a multiple choice survey could never, ever capture.
But if you want to go even deeper, there's ethnography. Now, this is a serious commitment. The goal here is to understand an entire culture from the inside out. And that means the researcher has to spend a ton of time. We're talking months, even years, living and participating in that community.
So check this out. A researcher spends a whole school year inside a single rural classroom. Over that much time, they start to see the invisible forces at play, the local values, the family expectations, all the cultural stuff that shapes how these kids see themselves as learners. It's incredibly powerful.
So, we've seen all these different blueprints. What's the single biggest takeaway? What's the most important thing to remember? It's this. There is no single best method. The research question is the boss, always. The question you ask determines the tool you need to use to answer it.
And this right here, this is basically your cheat sheet. It lines everything up for you. If you want to know, does X cause Y? You need an experiment. If you want to know, what is it like to experience X? You probably want a case study. It's the perfect guide to match your question with the right blueprint.
You know, understanding these designs isn't just for academics. It gives you a whole new lens to see the world, to ask better, sharper questions. The blueprint is just the beginning, so the only question left is, what do you want to build? What will you seek to understand?